The Old School podcast gives you factual analysis on basketball, football, MMA, boxing, pro wrestling, movies, and thought-provoking conversations that mainstream networks never acknowledge. Originally created by Scott Freeman, this podcast aims to educate young people and document the real greats in sports and entertainment. We'll stay on the cutting edge of AI, along with Scott's knowledge as a sports historian, to give you the best quality content, all for free. This is what this platform is all about: knowing your history and facts. But most importantly, this podcast will try to reinstate respect for different opinions. Too many people in today's society shame others for having a different opinion. On this platform, we embrace young people leading the charge on educated discussions with passion, respect, and of course, facts.
For WWE Raw on Netflix for January 6th, 2025. I just want to preface this right off the top, folks. You're looking at and listening to two dudes who saw wrestling when it was great. And I know y'all are like, well, Scott, why are you reviewing modern day wrestling, man? I thought you hated modern day wrestling. Well, two reasons. Number one, this is a significant change for the WWE, used to be called WWF. They're now on a major streaming platform, Netflix, and I'm wondering if that will actually bring them much needed mainstream attention. We'll get into that later, but we are two dudes. This is my friend Duck, by the way. I've known him for years now. And I wanted to get him on the podcast because he still keeps up with a lot of the modern day stuff, and he keeps me informed, and we often have good conversations. A lot of the conversations involved are, how can WWE improve today? And what can they do to get somebody like our attention, the 18 to 34-year-old male demographics attention, which they desperately need right now. So that's the first reason. The second reason is because I've seen so much doing the research for this video. Excuse me. The research for this video, Duck. I saw a bunch of dudes on YouTube who did the same type of reviews, and they don't watch the whole show. They just watch highlights, and they come up with these opinions, and they defend Cena, and they love Triple H. So, we're here to break down the facts and, separate from facts and what's Mark talk, a wrestling Mark who they don't watch anything else. We're here to break down the real facts from two dudes who love watching other things other than wrestling. So I hope that you all can understand that. This is our opinion, and we're not here to tell you what to like. If you like John Cena, more power to you. But, if you're a fan of him, just get ready for it. We're not going to be singing his praises in this video. So, we'll get to that a little later. Doug, did you watch the show?
Netflix debut, yes. So I've been looking forward to it. They've been hyping it up, so I feel like it's, a big deal for the industry itself. It's something different. The presentation is going to be a little different. They kind of hype it up to be something, different that's going to, really, take professional wrestling to the next level, And so definitely when you got competition somewhat, but it's still kind of, they're kind of like almost on their own when you really think about it, So there's, indie wrestling and all that other stuff that's going on, other promotions that, you can always tune into and that kind of thing. That's your thing. But WWE's been around for, for a really long time. So it's like, how do they get it to the next level to get, like you said, more people to view it? Because, wrestling, it's either you love it, or you just, you stick with it, or you're open to, checking it out or whatever, wherever you're at, I grew up during the Hulk Hogan days. So that's what kind of tuned me in. And, nowadays you've got, other media, kind of competing for your attention, back in the days I used to watch a lot of baseball, but then things, you just kind of grow out of that or whatever, other sports too. I still watch, football, whatever, but, you're competing with other, other stuff, other, media and that kind of thing. And, yeah, I love it. I love, the debut episode.
Okay, well, hey man, I'm glad you're happy about it. I was somewhat optimistic, because there's a lot of things at play here. Number one, you got Vince. Vince is finally out of here, and Triple H so far, I haven't been keeping up that much, but I watched this episode so we could do this review, and I can tell he is trying to target a different audience. But in my opinion, I don't think it's the audience they need to be going after if they want the mainstream attention. I think they're only targeting marks. I hate to say it. I know it's a negative word for the wrestling world, but it's people who don't watch UFC, don't watch any other sport. They only watch wrestling. And hey, that's fine if you only watch that, but that's why their viewership sucks right now. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the Hulk Hogan era. He got booed tonight. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, but during his era, I know you remember in the main event, you're getting 33 million viewers on major television, man. Mainstream television, 33 million viewers.
Yeah, you have the numbers. I don't have all that, so yeah, go ahead.
Oh, hey, no problem, man. Like I said, this podcast is all about that. Breaking down the numbers. To start before the show started, Michael Cole, who sounds like a robot, he was saying. That's my opinion. I don't know how you feel about Michael Cole, Duck, but he's a little cringy at times. They claimed before the show started, they got 8.9 million viewers, and they got a sold out gate, 17,000 fans, in the Intuit Dome. And did I say that right? Intuit?
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Inglewood, California. That's kind of I don't know why they held it in that city. I guess that was the only city available, but why not hold this significant episode in like Chicago or something, or even here in Atlanta, a hot wrestling town? I think you would have gotten a better reaction because the fans in those cities are, old school ECW fans, and they would have given more authentic reactions. This crowd, I don't know what you thought of the crowd, but the crowd seemed kind of, a lot of kids and moms in the crowd, and it just seemed like more of a family atmosphere because they cheer for John Cena. If they went to any crowd back in the day, man, they would have been booing him. But they claim Michael Cole says, they got 17,000 fans in a record gate. Again, I don't know if that's true. I mean, you go look at the show, any of the shows that these two guys behind me were on, I'm pretty sure got more money than this show. These two guys behind me sold out almost every single show they were at. And by the way, we will be back. The Bulldogs will be back. I'm all decked out in Georgia gear, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
I heard that they tried to get Steve Austin to do a segment on this show, and he said no.
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe it's just, sometimes you just have better things to do that night.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have other theories. He was busy, and he's one of the rare guys, man, who says he's done. He doesn't want to do it anymore. He was a guy who had to retire early, as you know, and he's come to accept the fact that he can't go anymore. So he doesn't want, Triple H bothering him all the time saying, "Hey, can you make this appearance here and then come here?" And I'm sure he just wants to relax. So they tried to get him to do something at WrestleMania this year, and he said no to that. So I don't know. My opinion is Austin seems like he's done with wrestling, which, hey, good for him. I think he's doing, have you heard he's doing this like quad racing or whatever?
I've never heard of. That's the first I've heard of whatever he's getting his hands into. I know he had like reality shows and things like that, and podcasts, and, so yeah,
he's got other hobbies, man. So what'd you think of them saying they got 17,000 is the largest gate ever? What'd you think of that statement?
You know what, the attendance for WWE has been really, really good. I can tell you that it's been popular. Professional wrestling, WWE has been popular because I look at the ticket prices, right? Before COVID, you can get like what you call it, like seats by the ramp, like for like $120. Now they're like almost $2,000. It's ridiculous. And so like WrestleMania tickets right now at the lowest is like 300 for nosebleeds. I checked. So they're selling really well, surprisingly. And it's expensive now, as opposed to like pre-COVID. I can tell you that. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm sold on the fact that it is, selling well, and just based on what I see, especially when the Triple H era hit, which is last like WrestleMania, that's when you started to see like the growth for me personally. I was at AEW, was it the first year AEW had their little event in Atlanta? Um, at that time, no one knew what AEW is made of and capable of. Of course, they bring in like ex WWE guys and indie wrestlers, and they were at that height, right? Because like no one knows like just the product. No one was too familiar with the product other than you got big names, and I was at that arena. There was just a lot of hype around that, and you just felt like professional wrestling was headed somewhere. Of course, you look at AEW now; it's just, I don't know, you're barely getting people in there. So, but WWE has
Bunch
been
of
really
marks.
competitive.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, but I think that it started with like for me, like the WrestleMania, the Triple H era WrestleMania has really. That's when you saw. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it felt like WWE was really growing, and also post COVID, you know, that's when I started seeing like the hike in the prices, at least for me. So, but the product itself, I can see where you're coming from, So it's really hard to really grab your attention, especially from what you get during the '80s, right? You got your Hulk Hogan and your what you call it, your hero versus this big bad villain that can pretty much squash him and that kind of thing, and you're kind of rooting for him and that kind of thing. And it's changed, right? It's more like reality based back in the 2000s and stuff. And so we're doing the Austin Rock days, and a lot of cursing and just really just people really wanting to tear each other down, that kind of thing. And then how do you keep that going with the PG era? They have to keep it PG because they were losing sponsorships or whatever you want to say, and just like a lot of the what you call it, the attack. I don't want to say.
Well, the question is, will they keep it PG? I mean, what they're on Netflix now. I mean, this is going to really define Triple H's legacy here. As a guy who didn't like him back in the day,
yeah.
Will he make a decision to say, hey, we got to drop this PG stuff if we want to get some attention here and, get people to be more creative with their own characters? Will he do that? So that's a good question. Go ahead.
What's funny, back during the Attitude Era, I was into ECW, as, a lot of wrestling fans were just curious about this whole extreme, violence, that kind of thing. And it was great. It was great for a while. And then you started hearing about in the recent years, GCW. Oh, you've heard of them. But I
that what John Moxley was in?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, they would come to town, and it's just I don't know, I felt like there wasn't any need for me to see some of that stuff that I saw back in the days. I don't know. Maybe I've just kind of grown with the product, and that kind of thing. And it's just more of just keeping up with the storylines and, the characters and things like that, and just keeping it going. I think that's the hard part, right? If you look at the NFL, right, there's a lot of history behind that, so people can watch the NFL and be excited about this year and next year after that. But then you bring in the UFL and whatever, the XFL, and it's no one really pays attention to it because no one knows who the players are. No one knows who to cheer for, right? So, of course, the WWE has been around for a really long time. So you have this really long history behind it that you can keep up with and that kind of thing. And that's what the Netflix debut episode was about. It wasn't so much about the continuation of some of the storylines. It was more of celebrating, and really, like you said, getting people to tune in, which I had a feeling it was. It was like you show all these celebrities in a crowd, right? And you just, you got your special guest, your Rock and your Cena and that kind of thing, and you get people to, to tune in because of that, and to see what they have to say, um, and not so much figure out like where they're headed with their storyline because these guys are part timers or they're not even really part of the roster so much like I mean they are somewhat, but they're not like you see them every week and that kind of thing. So um but yeah, when you look at the following episodes of Raw, that's when they start to really continue the story. I get that, as far as the debut episodes, just trying to get people to tune in to see all these celebrities and just really get hype about this whole thing. And um, so yeah, that's
You mean a part timer got some attention, Doug? I thought, see, part timers,
yeah,
these marks, they can't
yeah,
stand part timers. They're taking all the
exactly, yeah,
TV time away from the real guys. Well, hey, if they were actually, real stars, in my opinion, if they actually drew in the viewership, they wouldn't have to rely on The Rock all the time. You think The
right,
Rock needs to be on WWE television?
yeah, exactly. So
I'm
I
glad he's
remember
back.
when
Go ahead.
what was it the Raw 10th anniversary. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but The Rock was pretty much headed to Hollywood and he wasn't really, on TV every week. And he comes on and like you can hear like the fans booing him, because they were really sick and tired of the fact that he was a part timer and he was just going Hollywood and that kind of thing. And people just wanted to see something, see, more of WWE's actual product, the storylines, stuff like that. And I think I don't know. It's changed to where it's like when you see guys come back now, you can kind of celebrate it because I don't know, maybe just because you're just kind of celebrating the things they've done for the company and things like that, and you miss them or whatever, and it's just a pop and for one night or whatever, and they just kind of go away. And I don't know. I mean, it's good to have it sometimes, but sometimes it's like I know like W has had episodes where they bring, what was it? Like there was like a Raw, like a like classic, I forget what it was, but like it was like a throwback Raw and they brought back all these like Tatanka, whoever, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you get excited for like a second, but it's like it doesn't really excite you because you're just kind of more, you know, um, you're still more into the storylines and stuff like that. And so, I mean, it's a good pop, whatever, and it's also just an appreciation of like these guys who have paved way for what's going on right now.
Yeah, I'll say this point, and then we'll get into the rest of the show, folks. But I was just one who never understood the unnecessary criticism and hate towards The Rock for making the decision to take advantage of an opportunity. I mean, the guy was talented. He got an offer to be in the Scorpion King back in the day.
Yeah,
Well, first he was on Saturday Night Live, I think. He killed it both times. He's just a naturally great, charismatic actor.
yeah,
And for him to take advantage of that opportunity and become successful at it outside of wrestling, well, I give all the applause to him in the world. I mean, I'm someone who would do the same thing. That's something anybody would do in the professional world if they found something that was better. I'm sure The Rock was, looking around the locker room at the time and seeing all these guys who were getting hurt. And he said, well, hey, maybe I need to have something else on the back burner. That's what a lot of these modern day fans don't understand. They look at wrestling for only, oh, they should be doing this for 50 years. No, that ain't reality, man. So I've never held it against The Rock for going to Hollywood. Cena the hypocrite used to
oh,
criticize he used to criticize him all the time. Remember back in 2012?
oh yeah, yeah,
And now look what he's doing. He's
right,
trying to do the exact same thing, but it ain't working
right,
out so well.
yeah, exactly, yeah. He had no idea what he was really criticizing. It's like once you fall into what The Rock was doing, it's like, oh, I kind of enjoyed this, and it's like, I don't have to, hurt myself every night or so, and just the schedule, everything's lighter, right? And you're just not as busy, and I'm pretty sure he gets paid more when he was in Hollywood or whatever. I'm guessing. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean, I made an AI video not too long ago, talking about how much money his films have grossed over the past 23 years, and it's pretty staggering, man.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the first segment, and by the way, me, you can tell I don't like Cena, folks. And I think a lot of you viewers know that. If I were to meet the guy in person on the street somewhere, I would shake his hand and say hello to him. I don't care about the guy personally. I'm talking about his wrestling character. Okay, I just want to preface that. So the WWE starts after they announced the gate 17,000 fans. They play this little video package of showing the history and all the different successes they had over the years, starting all the way back how wrestling started in the 1800s to the territories and all of these different wrestlers who got a lot of mainstream attention. I thought it was great. Their editors, WWE has always done a great job hiring excellent editors. As you know, man, someone who loves editing himself. I'm a nut for that. So I love the video package. I think they did a great job. Vince was noticeably missing from it. They probably have Chris Benoit him at this point. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I think there's no turning back when I'd be surprised if he ever shows up again. So they
Yeah,
from him.
I know you guys have your opinion on Vince McMahon, especially you non-wrestling fans. You've probably seen him in the news. You can form your own opinion about him. I, on the other hand, I always thought he was a great character.
Right.
He was a great heel back in the day. That's what his talent was. He was a great character on screen. He knew how to get cheap heat, as they say.
Right.
But this notion that he was this genius, I don't really go along with that. I mean, the two guys
Oh,
behind me, he didn't come up with those characters. They
yeah.
did. Steve Austin came up with his own gimmick, and The Rock came up with that gimmick. So Vince is a great on-screen character, but when it comes to all these ideas that were innovative, you had a lot of smart people around him coming up with these ideas. I mean, you had Pat Patterson back in the day who came up with a lot of these creative finishes. You remember Judgment Day 2000, Duck? When Triple H, the Undertaker came back on his biker gimmick, and
Okay. Yeah. I remember that. You're talking about the very end when he was like supposedly like Ghost Rider in a way.
right, right. Yeah, see
Yeah.
that finish, all those finishes, they've said in many interviews that Pat Patterson came up with a lot of those finishes.
Okay. Yeah. Pat Passion comes up with great ideas. So yeah.
Yeah, he's always been a great finish guy because he comes from a territory where he was working in front of the same crowds every night, and he had to come up with creative things. So the point I'm making is, folks, Vince didn't come up with all these ideas. Yeah, he came up with WrestleMania. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
WrestleMania is one of the biggest events. It used to be one of the biggest events in entertainment. But Vince ain't this mad genius that the WWE DVDs would make you think. So once they finish, what was your opinion on the video package, man?
Man, I totally forgot like what happened during the video package. I can't tell you what I think about Vince McMahon for a hot second.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of professional wrestling for me personally wouldn't be here without Vince McMahon. It existed before him, but I think just the presentation of and the product that he gave us when I first started becoming a fan, back in the '80s. I think we owe it to him. Even the indie wrestlers and stuff like that. Just anybody in the professional wrestling business, I think personally owes it to Vince McMahon. Just because, yeah, he gave us WrestleMania, which put eyes on a product. And of course, yeah, before then, everything was territorial. It's like it's kind of like sports, right? You just don't know what goes on, unless you're, with your, they're not going to air, your local, sports on TV, whatever, to everybody and that kind of thing. That's the only way you know about it. And so I think he really helped put eyes on a product. Of course, in the last several years on his way out, yes, I can tell you the product was really bad. The decisions were really bad, and it's just like, yeah, I didn't get like half of the stuff that that he was putting out before the beginning of the Triple H era. And so I still watched it, and but I think he lost touch, I think, after the Attitude Era for me personally. And so, yes, this Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon character was just, I think it was genius, because everybody can relate to, hating on your boss and wanting to, take him out and that kind of thing. And it just happened like every week, right? And he just embarrasses himself. And, so it was really good TV,
A mainstream storyline, yeah.
Yeah. So
mainstream can relate to it.
Right. As far as the video package, I mean, 'cause I guess I've seen so many, great video packages. I'll have to play it again or whatever. But I know that Triple H hired, I believe, fact check me on this, like somebody who worked for Marvel.
And that's great. I think they do a great job with that. Editing.
Yeah, to do like the what you call it, the signature in the very beginning of like Raw and whatever. It looks very like Marvel-esque. I'm not saying that's I'm pretty sure when you're at the WWE, you want the best in the business to do your video package and things like that. And so they've always hit on the head for me. And so it's always good to watch how far they've come along and just some of the stuff that you see. Because when you talk about a product that's nowadays it's what 3 hours on Monday. Well, yeah, 3 hours on Monday,
3 hours, man. That's rough.
You got NXT, and you got so much content, and so it's always funny to see. Like, I'll always get on YouTube to watch. I'll get in that rabbit hole watching like old clips of like things that just like, oh yeah, I remember that happened, that kind of thing. Where that didn't happen because I didn't tune in. Or I didn't remember that because I didn't tune in, and that kind of thing. But most of the content that they air for these packages, you remember, and so but it's always good to look back and be like, oh, that's where they came from, and that's why I'm here to watch, And so you want to look forward to seeing more of that in the current product.
Yeah, I agree with your opinion on Vince. I forgot to mention he is a good promoter. I'll give him that too. He's great with that. Triple H narrated this video package, and he used noticeable words like mark or not mark, but we'll use that. He used words like heel and babyface and shoot. Those types of insider terms that a lot of fans are starting to adopt now. Once this video package was over, I think they had a nice little presentation. They had this little curtain that was around the ring. And as soon as the video package was over, it dropped and you saw Triple H in the ring. And I'm sorry, man.
The logos and the sponsors in the ring.
Yeah, it's... I wish Triple H the best, okay? I think he has a overall positive mindset. He wants to see this company be as popular as it used to be. I believe he really wants that.
Yeah.
So he's standing there in this dramatic pose, and the crowd is chanting Triple H, Triple H, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's the crowd. There's nobody in the crowd like me anymore, or Mr. Duck. Let's see, what did he say here? The crowd chanting Triple H. These crowds definitely aren't for me. Triple H says you are being seen by the entire world. Again, I doubt that, but they're trying to hype it up. I understand. And that the WWE is louder than anything before. Well, you telling me they're louder than the Chiefs game the other day? I mean, this is the type of stuff, man, that I like to pay attention to. Yeah. I talked about insulting your intelligence, on my other video, and I think a lot of modern day fans they just look at all these things the WWE says and all these statements they put out there, and they don't fact check it. They don't say, well, this is not true. You louder than anything else? What are you talking about, Triple H? There are plenty of other entertainment atmospheres or sports games that are way louder than a modern day wrestling event.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a little weird that he said that. He hypes up the crowd talking about how this is a new era for WWE, which it is. Then he says, "Are you ready?" That DX stuff.
Yeah, right.
I was an NWO guy. I don't know about you, man. I loved the NWO back in the day. I thought they were
Yeah.
cooler, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Telling another man to suck it, I can't go along with that. I'd rather go with for life. Okay. Um, so what'd you think of Triple H's little promo, to start the show?
I was a Triple H fan. I think like most people, I wouldn't say most people, but like I was a Triple H fan when he took up. I guess he started. I don't know the history of NXT, but like when NXT became a thing, I guess you'd say, because that was his little baby.
Yeah.
Vince this was still a hold of the WWE, and just the product for NXT was very like it was underground-ish, but just the presentation, yeah, was a lot smaller, scaled down than watching the WWE. So is today, but the characters and just like introducing to this whole new world of superstars and that kind of thing, and just like keeping you invested. I was a huge Triple H fan from that. I mean, of course, I enjoy watching Triple H. When he was wrestling in the Attitude Era, but yeah, I love his his thinking, and just like just he really thinks about some of the people that that's out there trying to be seen and that kind of thing. It's not easy. I know he's addressed that before, because sometimes people are like, why does Triple H not feature so and so? I like so and so, but it's like, he just says, it's not easy booking this thing. And so I think it's very easy for us to sit back and like, play Booker and that kind of thing, and think that we have enough time and for everybody and that kind of thing. And then, some things, they just with the current product, they do fall flat, and you just don't see, so and so around, and they end up getting released and that kind of thing, or just you stop being a thing. I get that, and so, but Triple H, I think he does his best, and he thinks about the product a lot, and I'm very confident, in his vision and that kind of thing, as opposed to really anybody else that's out there. Like, who else are you going to have in charge, And so, at least I'm more confident in his vision, So,
Well, I think look, I think Triple H has always had great intensity. I think he looks a lot more believable than a lot of these current wrestlers. Cody Rhodes looks pretty good. He's in great shape.
yeah.
But a lot of these other guys, man, Drew McIntyre, he looks good. These other guys don't look like they could win a real fight. And that's something that, Triple H was, I will say he was good at, is he always looked the part. It's just he was always the guy who worked with Austin or Rock. That's the only that's the only thing I really thought about him back in the day.
Right.
And
Ultimate Warrior for a hot second there.
Yeah, that's when he's being punished. That's another story. But I think Triple H has always been. He's kind of like Cena. I think he's better than Cena, but
Okay.
he's been polarizing in that sense, to where he was pushed a little too hard, I think, in the early 2000s, because I didn't really think he deserved it. I mean, there were other guys who could have been in that spot, and I don't think he buried as many guys as Cena did, but I always thought Austin and Rock were better than him. And all those guys, it just so happened that Austin got injured and had to retire. Rock went to Hollywood. So, hey, they're going with Triple H. That's what happened, I think, back in the day. So after this little promo, and I thought it was good, good presentation, like I said. They kept doing all these crowd shots after the promo. And
oh, yeah, plenty.
I'm sorry, man. The people in the crowd, they had their New Day shirts on, and what's that shirt they had years ago? I thought it was so dumb looking, man.
So New Day still, or just somebody else?
There's a group called New Day, and they got these
Yeah.
weird looking,
Oh, you're still talking about New Day? Yeah, yeah. Okay.
weird. I don't know what they are, but the shirts with cereal on them or whatever. I was
Oh,
like,
Bootios. Yes, Bootios.
I'm not wearing that garbage, man.
Yeah, it's actual cereal. I don't know if it's still on the shelves. I don't think they are, but I think I remember seeing Bootios on the shelves. I thought that was just fun and games or whatever, but they were actually it's an actual cereal.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, that ain't for me. Can you imagine these guys showing up to an old ECW show looking like that, man? I mean, I don't know if they'd be able to get in, but let's see. The Rock comes out after this. They have him start the show, which I think was a good start. I'm glad they did that to get people's attention.
Right.
He had a little bit of stubble. He's usually clean shaven, but he had a little bit of stubble. The dude he's still got it, man. He can still walk out there and ooze charisma.
Yeah.
I mean, who else? It just goes to show who else can have charisma like The Rock these days.
Yeah.
Unless Austin walks out there next to him, I can't think of anybody else. Maybe what's that chick who's got the black hair?
Chick with the black hair.
We'll talk about her later. What's that?
Rhea Ripley?
I think that's her name.
Yeah. Okay.
So Rhea something. She's got a lot of charisma.
Yeah.
We'll get to her later, but The Rock just looks like $1 million, man. No wonder they have him on here.
Yeah.
So he comes out there with that People's Championship. I think that looks great.
Right.
They use like this 4K camera to capture him walking down the aisleway. I thought that looked nice. He goes over to his daughters. I think this is the first time we've seen his daughters over sitting in the front row, and his mom. He cuts a promo, and he talks about how he became a legitimate high chief for Samoa. And, he talked about his father being in wrestling and watching wrestling in different ways. He claims that they had the largest arena gate in history. Again, there they go. They're trying to get him to say it now. He says, finally, The Rock has come back to Los Angeles. He does his whole shtick, And he calls out the Netflix executives. I thought that was funny. The Netflix executives sitting in the skybox. Yeah, he says, so-and-so, I see you up there. You better not edit out what The Rock is saying. That dude can always deliver one-liners like nobody else, man. He thanks Cody Rhodes, who was in the crowd. He looks like he's a babyface now, man. I kind of enjoyed it when he was a heel because it's something that we weren't expecting.
Are you talking about The Rock right now?
Yeah, The Rock.
Okay.
Yes, sir. He's that promo.
Yeah, because he was, of course, the heel leading up to last year's WrestleMania to feud Cody and all that. And so, and of course, they had a little, I think it was the Raw season premiere. I forget when it was, but they couldn't figure out like what his schedule, or, it's The Rock. You can't really figure out if he's going to be at WrestleMania, that kind of thing, his schedule, whatever. And so they were really trying to get behind a feud between him and Cody Rhodes in the People's Championship and that kind of thing. And then that whole speech at the Raw, the Netflix debut, pretty much just kind of buried the idea that he's going to be at WrestleMania or feuding with Cody any further. So,
yeah, I think because I watched a little bit of that got my attention last year. Some of his best work, man, and I liked the corporate Rock was okay. That was kind of cool how he was with Vince back in the day. But I don't know if you noticed this, man, but during his segment, because I watched the tape version, I didn't watch the live version of the show. Okay. I think they edited the crowd. It would show The Rock cutting his promo, and then when the camera would cut away to the crowd, you would just hear them go, ah, and nobody was moving their mouth. So they already have edited the crowd noise.
Yeah, I watched live, so.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. The Rock says that he was noticeably, or I'm sorry, he said he at last acknowledges Roman Reigns. I'll give you my opinion on Roman a little later, but then he ended the promo by saying his, classic, if you smell, and then he paused a little bit. He's great at doing that. He pauses, and then the camera zooms in on his face. Right. And what The Rock is cooking. So I'm going to turn it over to Duck and give his opinion. But folks, let me keep it real with you before I do that. I'm going to use, as The Rock would say, to all you wrestling marks, know your role and shut your mouth. Go ahead, Duck.
Okay, I think what The Rock is, every time he comes out, you don't know what's going to happen, and you're just so drawn into what he's about to say, what he's about to do. And some of that is lost in, today's, talent and that kind of thing. It really is. And he's unpredictable. I still remember his, this was probably a good, gosh, maybe it's been 2 years wrestling. You mean, watch wrestling, the years fly. And so he'd come out of his car and he was like insulting Lana and Rusev and that kind of thing. He just kind of like just went off, and just was being him and just having fun and just spitting out whatever. And that's The Rock, that's his character. And you're so drawn to what he has to say. And as opposed to, a lot of the talent that's out today. So look, when you see somebody come out, you're just like, oh, we know what we're getting out of this guy and that kind of thing. And so one thing I do have to say is watch out for Jacob Fatu. I think he's part of the whole bloodline. And so I guess he's, somebody that, of course, it's not going to be The Rock's level or anything like that, but somebody to look out for in the future. But there's just not a lot of guys that will draw you in like The Rock. And I don't think there isn't going to be, just the way that he does it, And so, and some of the stuff that he's done in the past and just especially with the Attitude Era, that people who know who The Rock is and what he's done back then, you just can't have it now. But he still brings a little bit, he brings a lot of that to today's product a little bit, and that separates him from anybody today. And so, and just the fact that he established that he's The Rock, that's who he is, and this is what he's about. And so when you look around the other talents, like, who are you? What do you represent, and how can you really get under the skin of your opponent, that kind of thing, right? That's basically, wrestling 101, that kind of thing. I think back to like a Roddy Piper. I think he's one of the best, watching back in the days, and just and a lot of guys back in the 80s, there's a lot of screaming and trying to get your attention, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, everybody's a little bit soft spoken and whatever. I'm gonna hurt you tonight. That's about it. It's like we want more. We want I know some of the stuff you can't really say, but
you mean? Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, how can you get under the skin of your opponent, and get us really excited about, what's going to happen, that kind of thing. And The Rock I don't know, he just does it so well. He's very random and he could just say anything, and so he's one of those people that have like his ceiling is, so high as far as like what he's gonna do and that kind of thing. And some of these other guys that just, there's a cap for them, and what to expect. And that's the thing about professional wrestling, right? And the WWE is just like, for us to watch, we're expecting something, but we're also kind of tuning in to, to expect the unexpected, just like watching anything, and yes, the storytelling it's a challenge nowadays, because we've seen everything. We've seen, the Attitude Era and the PG era and the 80s, and the what's the one back in the 80s? Well, back before the
before Hogan.
After the 80s, it was like the new.
You're talking about the new generation.
New generation,
mid 90s.
Yeah. You go through all these generations and that kind of thing, and so you the talent behind each generation is helps define that kind of thing, and but yeah, I mean, The Rock is he's just rare, man. So every time I see him, it's like, I just look forward to it,
So what you're saying is you want to see the promos, these modern day wrestlers, you want to see them cut a promo like how The Rock was talking to Cena when he said he wanted to rip his throat out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of it is just lost on that. And so
I agree.
Yeah. Watch, I would suggest a video that I saw recently. You have to like YouTube Ricochet Aura. And
Okay.
so Ricochet, great wrestler. And now, used to be in WWE, now he's in AEW, and he's getting booed quite a bit for whatever reason, his lack of promos or whatever. Athleticism, he's off the charts. But you could put on great matches, and but you know, you're not always going to get people invested in those matches in what's promoting those matches, and so because if you look at AEW right now, the products is, I mean, it's fallen flat. Like it was at its height when it first started, because I was there at State Farm Arena, and just excitement and just like the rowdiness of the crowd. Like, you talk about like a crowd like no other. That night for me personally was like, it was louder than anything that I experienced in a WWE live crowd and that kind of thing. And I've been to SoFi Stadium, and I've been to Dallas and Tampa and WrestleMania and that kind of thing, and on Raw, on State Farm. I've never heard anything like that. It's kind of ironic, because that was AEW back then, but you look at it now, it's they're trying to find something. They're looking like TNA right now, but
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah. So, and TNA looks like they're doing better right now.
Yeah, I think, and I when I quit watching WWE in 2012, 13-ish, TNA was Impact. We're talking about Impact Wrestling, all right? We're not talking about the TNA y'all are thinking about. We're talking about Impact Wrestling, the show. It's got a weird name, I understand, but that company was something I really loved watching in the mid 2010s. I mean, the AJ Styles and Kurt Angle matches, man. I loved
Oh,
those.
Joe, yeah.
Yeah. So just to move on here, we got our first match here after this Rock promo, and we're going to go through these matches. I'm going to go through them kind of quickly because I don't want to spend too much time going through each match. I'm just going to give you the highlights of the match, and then you can say your opinion, Mr. Duck, on those.
Sure.
Because a lot of these matches were okay, but I was really looking more for the storytelling. So the first match was Roman versus Solo Sikoa. And, Roman Reigns back in the day, 6, 7 years ago, I wasn't a Roman Reigns fan. I thought he was becoming Cena 2.0, especially with Vince still being in charge. He pushed him on everybody, and he was not over. He would get booed everywhere. And who remembers that 2015 Royal Rumble debacle where he won that Royal Rumble? He got booed, and then The Rock tried to come out there and shield him from the boos, and
Oh yeah, right.
and they booed The Rock.
I was thinking about the number 30th entrance. I don't think that was the same year. I had to go back, but there are reaction videos of the 30th entrance, because sometimes people expect that to be the surprise entrance, right? And I think at the time people were expecting Daniel Bryan, and they got
Yeah.
Reigns, and there's these reaction videos of Roman coming out, and they booed him. I don't remember which year it was, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that was 2014. I remember a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And then I remember you had you guys like Lance Storm coming out and defending that. We have the right to our opinion. Don't call us internet fans. Don't call us any of this stuff. We just look at the logic and say this isn't right. Daniel Bryan's over with the crowd. Why don't you make him win the Royal Rumble? It makes sense to me. So yeah, Roman Reigns went from a guy who was booed like Cena, and they came to their senses and turned him heel. And now he's actually somewhat entertaining. He doesn't have to talk. He doesn't cut very good promos. I find him to be a little boring when he talks, so they put Paul Heyman in there with him, which was good. I think now they finally have him on track to where they wanted him to be 7 years ago.
Right.
Back when Vince was in charge, they probably wanted Roman to be like this at that time, but they kept trying to shove him down your throat like Cena, and it wasn't going to work.
Right.
The fans were going to push back. So, the match starts with, by the way, the entrances were great. I think great presentation on both of these entrances. The match starts with brawling outside the ring, similar to Triple H type matches where they immediately, brawl and throw each other out of the ring, and they brawl in the crowd and they use weapons, and not much wrestling. They just I guess that's their storytelling. Paul Heyman's facial expressions were great as always.
Mm-hmm.
And again, man, I got my notes here. Michael Cole during this match. I'm sorry, I'm not a Michael Cole fan. That guy, he just sounds kind of robotic, and he can't hold a candle to Jim Ross. I'm sorry.
I was going to bring that up. Jim Ross has spoiled us.
Yeah, Jim Ross is one of the most relatable, credible announcer. You're talking about a guy who's a former WSB AM 750 announcer, Jim Ross. He announced for the Atlanta Falcons for a year back in the early 90s. This guy has a legitimate background in announcing, and he sounds relatable and with the way he talks. Right. So every time Austin will come out, my God, here comes Austin. It got you invested.
Yeah. He sells it like I'm pretty sure you've seen videos where he talks about Triple H, at the very end of the Raw, I was like, "Damn you, Triple H," whatever. And so he's like, he's hell, whatever. And he sells you the idea that Triple H is this evil guy that should, go to hell.
Yeah, he said he's gonna burn in hell for what he did tonight.
And nowadays, I mean, Michael Cole tries, but he's just not on that level. He's good. Like, I think you do appreciate Michael, at least for me, I appreciate Michael Cole for all the years and dedication that he's done for WWE, because you don't know who else you would have gotten,
Yeah.
He tries to keep up. Of course, he doesn't compare to Jim Ross. And I get the cringiness, and so, but you get what you get out of Michael Cole, I guess. So, yeah, there was a time when I really just did not like the guy.
Yeah, the same here, especially when he kept kissing John Cena's butt all the time.
Yeah,
John Cena. Oh, well, look at the strength of John Cena. It's like, dang, dude, why don't you get in the ring and just give him a hug real quick? So another highlight I liked from the match was Solo pulling out the table from under the ring, and Roman doing that drive-by kick that he does on the apron.
Yeah,
I think that looks okay, but the announcers, again, Michael Cole makes it sound so devastating. It's like, drive-by. Well, it's not. It's just a kick, man.
Yeah.
I thought the drive-by kick was okay. Mm-hmm. Roman powerbomb Solo through the table. So they're on the top rope, and Roman reverses something that Solo was doing to him and powerbombs him through the table off the top rope. Good spot. I always like seeing them do these extreme spots. Mm-hmm. It gets guys like us our attention.
Right.
So then we get a bunch of interferences. It's kind of like, and I was talking about the NWO earlier. It's NWO style. Like 3 people come out and interfere. We got Haku's son, Jacob. Yep. Jacob Fatu, Haku's son, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. All these guys come out and interfere. And we got multiple different stories going here. They're all trying to continue their respective storylines. Cody, goes after everybody, and Kevin goes after everybody, and Jacob and Haku's son. What's Haku's son, by the way? What's his name?
Tamatonga.
Okay. Yeah. You got a lot of interference, so you can tell they're trying to keep each story going at the same time in one match. So again, that's good booking by Triple H, to get everybody involved like that. Finish of the match was Roman hitting 2 spears on Solo, so that they were somewhat protecting Solo in that sense, hitting 2 spears to make it look like he kicked out of one, and he gets the 3 count for the win. So, what you think of this match, buddy?
Yeah, it's definitely a retread of the last year's main event between Cody and Roman, and bloodline rules, right? So everybody's going to come out, and I think this is a little bit more toned down because you got your the 2 guys that support Solo and Kevin Owens, and then on the other end you got Sami and Jay and Cody and But was it okay? Let's go back. Yeah, Sammy J. Okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, this is a really good match for Solo. I think for him to kind of keep up with Roman, who it's at the very top, right? Your tribal chief or whatever. And so I always love Solo. And when I saw him at NXT as the was it the street? I forget what the name. The street gangster fighter. I forgot what he was promoted as back then. It's going to come back to me at some point. But I love Solo when he was in NXT, and for him to transition into the main roster, he was this guy who was kind of like in the back. He was still dangerous with that Simone Spike, but he was also little brother, right, to the Usos, and kind of like in the background. And of course, he's being promoted as the guy who's taking over the bloodline, that kind of thing. And you don't want to make him look like So I mean, he is second fiddle to Roman or whatever. But I thought that they really presented him really well to where he was capable of keeping up with Roman. Of course, he's not going to be as good as Roman, but it was a good match for Solo. I think that was a thing. And like you said earlier, some of these other brawls are good continuations. Other these side, I don't know what you call it, but these run-ins with other guys are really good. What you call it, continuation of the feuds and stuff like that. I thought we saw some of that during the Attitude Era. I don't remember.
Yeah, I was going to say the NWO and WCW. They always had a run-in in every match.
Right, and so a certain guy would come out and brawl with so and so, and it helps people like engage in the talent that's out there and not just be like, you're paying attention to the match as well, but you're also like, hey, what's going on between these guys? And or oh yeah, this guy is gonna get revenge on the other guy and hopefully gets the best out of him this time.
Continuity.
Yeah, and so I was thinking about I don't know why I was thinking about this, the handicap match with Randy Orton and John Cena versus the Raw roster. You remember that? That was
I somewhat remember that. I just remember like Randy Orton.
I felt like they were bearing the talent with that match personally, and I think it's very important, when you have talent involved that you just shine a light on them and make them all look good, and so you'd hate for somebody to come out and just get whooped and just like, why was that guy out there, and so but yeah, I love that part of the match. I wish there were more run-ins like that sometimes, they're just interesting, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Of course, you're always going to get your clean matches and that's what you expect, but a run-in is just, it's always exciting to me, so I love it.
Yeah, I think I think that was a good start, a good match to start this event.
Yeah.
Roman looks great, by the way. He looks like a real athlete. It's nice to see someone who's in shape. Paul Heyman after the match gave this little necklace. I don't know what that necklace is called. It's some sort of term in the Samoan culture.
It's called I think it's called, I'm gonna mispronounce it, the Ula Fala. Drew McIntyre calls it the falafel, which was hilarious. And now in my head I call it the falafel, even though it's probably disrespectful, but this is Drew McIntyre here.
Yeah, so. he's doing some heel stuff. That's good.
Yeah.
But Paul Heyman hands it to The Rock comes out, and Paul Heyman hands it to The Rock, and The Rock then hands it to Roman Reigns. So you still got that story going. So I thought that was good storytelling. Next, we get CM Punk backstage warming up. CM Punk is a controversial figure for a lot of reasons. I was definitely behind him 100%. Back in 2011 when he went up against Cena, I said CM Punk needs to win, and fortunately he did. That's the last time wrestling had a buzz around it. When The Rock and CM Punk were back and they had their feud that year, that's when I was still watching. Then they had this again. I don't know if this is a Triple H call, but they had these drone shots. They had a little drone flying around the arena. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It's innovative stuff. See, they're trying to, I'll give them credit on that. They're trying to do this, the same thing UFC is doing. They're trying to do the same thing mainstream entertainment's doing. They're trying to do the same thing the NFL is doing with all of their drone cameras. And that's good. They should be trying to appeal to those fans because that's how they're going to be making money. So I think that was innovative. Then they start doing a bunch of crowd shots of all the celebrities, you know, Gabriel Iglesias. I care less about him. I don't know if you're a fan of him, Duck, but Ashton Kutcher, they showed him. He was in the audience.
Yeah.
I liked Punk back in the day when they had Steve Austin on there, that episode. The dude named Michael Chi from SNL, apparently.
All right, Michael Che, yeah.
Don't really know much about him.
Yeah.
They show Rey Mysterio. He was in the crowd. And the first thing I thought of was, he's still wrestling?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think it's a sad day if Ray steps, you know, away from the ring, for me personally, just because I watched him back in the WCW. Of course, you know, he's out there now, but when I first tuned into that's, you know, Ray's matches and the Cruiserweight matches back in the WCW days, when I had it, I mean, he's amazing. Some of those matches that he had, you know, back in WCW were great. And so the funny thing was, I remember
Guerrero, yeah.
I had a job interview, and one of the questions were like, "Who's your hero?" Or like, I forget what it's a job interview, and it's like, who I forget what it was. Like, who's your hero? Who do you look up? Whatever, your favorite person or whatever what it was. But I wrote down two names: Scott Hall and Rey Mysterio. And
oh yeah, Scott Hall, man.
Yeah,
I love
so yeah, I got to meet that guy. So it's pretty incredible to, you know, meet your hero and tell him, you know, what you meant to them, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Hey, Chico.
Chico.
Hey,
Yeah.
let me tell you something. You go tell that Ken doll lookalike. Go tell that weatherman wannabe Eric Bischoff that the NWO is here for life. That's when wrestling was cool, man.
Yeah, I met Scott at the Jake the Snake movie premiere. The Jake the Snake, was it the Resurrection? I forget what the movie.
Yeah, Resurrection of Jake Roberts. Yeah,
yeah,
that was great.
So Jake and DDP was there, and of course Scott. And I remember telling Scott, because I used to, just like you, like just as a kid, just impersonating Razor Ramon, and I was like, "Hey, I used to impersonate you, Elo." He's like, "That'll be $10."
You're not impersonating me for free.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny, man.
He was hilarious. And but back to we were talking about Rey Mysterio and the crowd shots, right? Yeah.
No, you good? Yeah, he Rey Mysterio Jr. put on some great matches with Eddie Guerrero back in the day. Those are my favorite matches in WCW cruiserweight division. And by the way, at that time, WCW was kicking the crap out of the WWF. I mean, Vince McMahon hated their history. He did not acknowledge any of that stuff when Vince was in charge, and that bothered me. It's like, dude, you got to fess up to the reality, man. WCW was the better product for many years until the dude behind me, Austin, got taken off.
Yeah.
Started taking off with his popularity,
right.
And everybody tuned in to see Austin. And you know, 99, late 98. But until then, it was all Sting, Goldberg, Hogan in the NWO. That was the thing to watch. But anyway, so they show Rey Mysterio in the crowd. Then they show some rapper named Whale or something. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's a huge WWE fan. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them, sir. You'll have to educate me.
Okay.
Then they show LA Knight in the crowd, who I've seen a little bit of his work. He's charismatic.
Yeah.
So I'll let you give a little bit more thoughts, man, because next is the Cena segment. So
okay,
I'll let you give some more thoughts before we talk about Cena, man.
You know, it's really good to have like some of these. I mean, you already know that with the debut episode, they're gonna have your celebrity crowd shots because you're pretty much just flexing, right? And it really helps the product when you really think about it. It's like if you were to promote, some independent wrestling company, and have crowd shots of, Billy Bob from, down the street, no one's gonna get excited, right? But when you see these celebrities, of course, celebrities, they travel the world and that kind of thing, and when they actually take time out of the day to come to a wrestling event, it keeps you just wanting to be like, hey, so and so is checking it out. I should too, especially with the Netflix. I don't know if people were just tuning into the WWE for the first time on Netflix, they get to see some of that. I think that's one of the main things when Triple H talks about, the world's watching, that kind of thing. And he assumes that people are going to just tune into, WWE on Netflix. At least that was the hope, right? And so you see all these celebrities, and they were doing quite a bit of it. You saw Topanga, you saw Macaulay Culkin. I love that. And so
why didn't they have any UFC fighters?
I think they had one. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
I think they had one. There was a guy in there I didn't recognize because I don't watch UFC, but it just makes wrestling cool, I guess. When you see that, and especially when WrestleMania, they do that too. Especially with NFL players, and they come to the game every now and then. George Kittle and I think Travis Kelce has showed up. I know Patrick Mahomes have, and that kind of thing. But when you see that, it makes wrestling cool, and so I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not surprised that they do that kind of thing, and it really does help with the presentation of product and that kind of thing. And just like any crowd shots, I love I love drones, man, and because we've seen, live events and sporting events, evolve from, just a steady camera shot in front of, this and that. And just like, I think the drone shots kind of helps establish that. Of course, you can always have your area views right of the city, that kind of thing. But none of that moves like the drone. None of that like can get inside the crowd and just move around that quick. And it just establishes the atmosphere, And so it gets people really excited. I wish, we can see more drone shots of like, other things, that kind of thing. I appreciate them.
You remember it reminded me when I saw the drone, it reminded me of those little blimps they used to have in the arenas for advertisements, in your house shows.
Yeah.
WWF in your house. They used to have like this, 1-800-collect blimp flying in the arena.
Yeah.
That's what that reminded me of.
Really slowly. Yeah. But yeah, man. The presentation was just like, it was predictable, but it just helps, with promoting the product and getting people sold on this is where you need to be, everybody's there. Topanga's there. So you got to watch.
I think they did a great job with that. Yeah. I think something else that they should experiment with is, remember how WCW camera guys used to be on the apron? And it would actually show you inside the ring, like you're standing next to them inside the ring. I like that kind of like how this guy behind me here, if you look in my screen, my background behind me, see how that camera guy's on the apron behind the Rock?
Okay, yeah.
I'd like them to do more shots like that. I think that's kind of a good angle. You can really feel like you're in the ring. That's just something little, but.
Okay. You see that working, obviously, like all the cage matches, you got to have at least one camera guy inside the cage, right? And
right. All right, folks. So John Cena comes out. This dude, even with Vince gone, okay? Even now that Vince is gone for good, they still got to push this guy out there. Okay? I understand he's making a little one-time appearance, but Triple H still has to throw him out there. Okay, he comes out here, right? And as soon as his music hits, you hear a bunch of, little kids and other people,
Adults, grown
screaming.
adults.
Yeah, you hear adults doing that. I'm like, man, these crowds are not like me anymore. They have guys like me have completely left. And now what's left is, and of course, guys like you, Doug, they ain't there. They've been replaced by Cena fans or people who might have loved Cena, to begin with, and they just didn't want to admit it. But as soon as his music hits, man, I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this is a guy who buried a lot of my favorite wrestlers. He buried Edge, in my opinion. He buried Wade Barrett, in the Nexus. He played politics with a lot of these dudes, and nobody wants to admit it.
Yeah.
And he did that cringy, stupid rapper gimmick back in the day.
I love that.
Well, hey man, if you love it, more power to you. But for me, that rapper gimmick, was so cringy. You want to? I'm not a rap connoisseur, but I'll keep it 100 with you, as the kids say. Go listen to some Tupac. Go listen to some LL Cool J or Nas. Those are guys who would make Cena's thugonomics. Thugonomics. It would make his thugonomics look like garbage, man. That type of stuff was so annoying to see him do that. Then he switched. Remember, he switched from thugonomics to hustle, loyalty, respect, and suddenly he doesn't have the accent anymore.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that always annoyed me with him, and he's not, in my opinion, he's not a real athlete. He's a weight room athlete, which means he lifts weights really well. He's a bodybuilder. Yeah. But he just always looks clumsy and unathletic in the ring, and he clearly can't keep up with all these other wrestlers that were better than him. He just could not keep up in the ring. So this dude comes out, man, and he's wearing bright blue everything. He's wearing a bright blue shirt, bright blue wristbands, a bright blue hat. He's even wearing blue socks, and he's got jorts on. He's got these running shoes. He looks like a clown, man. I'm just being honest with you, dude. He looks like a clown. And then he holds up this towel. And let's see, what was the towel? The towel says, "The last time is now." You know how he play on his theme song, "My time is up, my time is now." And it says, "My last time is now." And I looked at that and I said, good, it better be. How many times are you going to try to come back and, get all the attention, Cena? So he holds up this little towel, which is another piece of merch that they're going to sell to children. And he looks into the camera guy, John Cena. "I sound like a politician when I talk. Don't you notice, Duck, how he sounds when he talks? He sounds like, monotone every time he talks."
Yeah.
John Cena, "Hey, Mr. Cameraman, let's go to work. Let's go to work." Said that to the camera guy, and then he starts running down to the ring. Just go back and look at how he runs, Duck. Like you can tell an athlete by how they run. This dude, the way he runs, he does not have good body control.
Really?
He just wiggles a lot and like penguin, he just
another guy running. No one doesn't like Warrior, I'm telling you though.
What's that?
No one doesn't like Warrior.
Oh, I know. It's just the way, like, go back and watch Goldberg. Remember when Goldberg would run to the ring, to go get somebody in the ring? Like, he looked like a real athlete because he was. And all these other guys, The Rock, whenever he ran to the ring, it's just Cena is not that guy. So he does his same old stuff. He jumps in the ring, holds up that what I think is an Illuminati sign. The three stuff.
Oh,
it's an Illuminati.
I don't, but whatever.
I think that's a little weird. It does that. He gets the crowd's attention, and everybody's cheering him. And I said, man, this I can't stand this guy. So he cuts a promo. And even at the start of this promo, he has this fake accent going. He's like, "Oh man, LA, you loud, LA." It's like, dude, shut up. Stop with the fake accent. He says, LA showed up. And then the crowd says, "Thank you, Cena. Thank you, Cena." I'm thinking, if y'all are chanting "Thank you, Cena" for 10, almost 15 years of championships. I mean, this guy's a 15, 16-time champion. Mm-hmm. 10 years of burying all of your favorite wrestlers. I'm not thanking him for that. So he continues to pander to the crowd, saying, I love LA. I used to start at UPW, it's LA right over here in Inglewood, California. It's like, dude, you started, I don't know if you know the backstory, Duck. He wasn't trying to get in the wrestling business. He started because he was trying to be a bodybuilder in California.
Yeah.
And he fell into the business. So all of this stuff about he's so passionate about WWE, I mean, that ain't true. All right.
The prototype, whatever he was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like he does it for free, by the way. No, he gets a paycheck like everybody else. He says he started at the UPW, like I mentioned. LA is where he won his first championship, and that's also the same WrestleMania where viewership started dropping. That WrestleMania 21 is what he was talking about. Apparently, he's on his farewell tour. Good. That's all I got to say.
I'm actually looking forward to it, man.
And then he started talking about, how he could win a 17th championship. And I'm thinking, man, if Triple H wants this guy to win a 17th championship, how far has wrestling fallen? If you want John Cena to win 17 championships. Okay, and Cena's the same. This is the same guy who said he criticized MMA, so I don't really get John Cena. I don't really get the MMA thing. I don't understand why it's popular. You simulate fighting.
You're nailing back the impression, by the way.
I mean, that's how he sounds to me. He sounds like a politician.
Yeah.
It's like you John Cena, you simulate real fighting. Why are you acting like you don't get UFC, you big goof? You're supposed to be simulating that. Mm-hmm. So the crowd, cheers for that possibility. Then he says he actually says his time is up and their time is now. Well, it's 10 years too late. You should have said that 10 years ago, man. Your time is definitely up. Let somebody else have the spotlight. He says maybe he could win the Royal Rumble. Maybe, and he said it just like that. Maybe I could win the Royal Rumble. He is not a good actor, man.
Yeah.
It's the same guy who criticized The Rock for acting. So I'll just say this, and then I'll turn it over to Duck. Go watch. Maybe you've seen it, man. Y'all go watch this promo that The Rock cut on Cena. It's 11 minutes long, and he was in like his backyard or something. And in that promo, The Rock said every single thing that us old school fans feel about Cena. And guess what? They're all pretty true statements. So with that being said, what'd you think of the repetitive Cena segment, Doug?
Okay, I gotta go back and watch whatever you're referring to. But it's clear that you just do not like Cena. I'll tell you what, though. I love Cena. And but there was a period where I did not. And when you go back to the beginning of the, when he came out and wrestled Kurt Angle, and it was like, why Kurt Angle was like, why you're stepping up to me? He's like ruthless aggression. He stops him. And I was really impressed by that. He just looks like, at the time, the Raw creator wrestler, what you started off with, not Raw, the WWE 2K creator wrestler. So he was very generic. But I thought he was good. I don't know. It was, of course, when you talk about his, 5 moves or whatever, but there was some storytelling in the ring that I don't know what it was, but it was a really good debut. And I took notice of that. And of course, Undertaker, he has these, backstage segment, impressing all these guys, and of course, you hated that Doug Life. The Doug Life gimmick?
Wannabe rapper, yeah.
Doctor Thugonomics, John Cena. I loved it just because, he said some things that were just like very vulgar, and in his rhymes, he would have like a really bad word that he wouldn't say. Like he would have a rhyme, and then like the very last word rhymed with whatever. It was a vulgar word, and the crowd chants it or whatever. And so, but you have to look back at the the Royal Rumble, I forget which year it was. I believe he was wearing like a Houston Astros jersey or something like that. And he comes out and he does this whole rap thing. You know, like the Royal Rumble when you're an entrant, either you're running to the ring or you're just getting yourself hyped up to get into the ring to, throw all these other guys over the top rope and win. And John Cena comes out and starts rapping, and he's just like wasting your time with his raps. The raps, of course, they're stupid or whatever, but they're funny to me. And uh, you know, I don't want to repeat some of the stuff he says, but it's. I always thought they were hilarious, and so a lot of that did win me over. And of course, he became really popular because of that. And then he started winning championships, and then he became the corporate guy, right? Because um, you're going to the PG era, and you're selling merch, and
John Cena. Suddenly, I'm not a thug. Now I am with
right,
private school.
yeah, and yeah, he went through this period where he was just a normal guy, like that you can just have a conversation with, and whatever. When he comes out, because there's the presentation is just like he's just relate. Oh, I don't know, he's relatable, but he spoke different. That's just like uh, a wrestler that was in the main event, I guess. I don't know. He just spoke normal, I guess, and he was very. Um, I don't know. He was relatable, but his character was more. I don't know. It was stale too. I don't know how you describe it, but just because he kept winning championships and he was always on top, like you said, bearing all these guys, and so that was
Who were better than him?
a period where I was kind of like everybody else. I was sick of seeing Cena because it was predictable and it was just like you knew he was going to win. So he became like the second coming of Hulk Hogan, pretty much. A little different back then because you were rooting for Hulk Hogan because he was like the only guy and he was just trying to fight all these big monsters or whatever. And now modern day Hulk Hogan, or whatever you want to call him, what they were trying to do with him. I think behind the scenes, I think I really appreciate all the stuff you hear about him doing for like the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think that was the big thing with Cena, and that was a big deal because these kids who are part of these programs, right? I mean, a lot of them aren't alive right now, but that was like their only hope is like watching John Cena and getting to meet him and that kind of thing. And that I thought that was really important as far as like him being this guy, for the company. As fans, it was old and stale. We were getting sick and tired of the same product every week, and him winning is being predictable. And of course, he was winning, too many championships and that kind of thing. And then it got to the point where um, I think Roman came around, and then you were starting to get tired of him, and then you saw less of Cena. And there's a promo between Roman and Cena. I think it was leading up to the Survivor Series, something like that. It's pretty popular. You can, not hard to miss if you look it up. And Cena pretty much owned Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns became the second coming of Cena, and so he became the guy that you the Cena that you hated. Roman pretty much became that guy, and then you kind of tip your hat for, at least for me, I kind of tip my hat to Cena, for not seeing him as often. And when he came back to this debut Netflix episode, there was an appreciation for that because for me, just the years that he put in, as much as you hated it, he gave you everything, even though it's just 5 moves or whatever. And he was entertaining. He had his moments, and yes, you have to move on and promote some of these younger guys. You can't have this old Cena that buries everybody. But I think if they use him right, my belief is during this farewell tour that he can promote some of the younger talent. He doesn't need to win the 17th championship or whatever, which I could see happening. If there's a possibility that he could win at WrestleMania. I don't know. I don't book these things. Um, but I think that's up to Cena and Triple H. And if that's the legacy that they didn't want to leave with Cena, would they just have it a tie with Ric Flair, right? As far as world championships.
which would be a disgrace in my opinion. But
Yeah.
well, look,
And so,
go ahead. Go ahead.
oh no. So this next year, I'm actually looking forward to Cena's run. Starting with the Rumble, right? What's going to happen at the Rumble is either he's going to win it, which could happen, or somebody tosses him over and becomes his next feud. And I think my hope is um, that he really helps promote some of the guys that he feuds with. He does a good job with that, somewhat. I know he's buried people and all that, but I think this time around, I think he can really help some of the younger talent that needs something to get people talking. But he did that with Austin Theory like a few years ago. I believe it was at SoFi WrestleMania, and it didn't work. I don't think Austin Theory still. He's almost just another guy to me personally right now. I mean, he's got potential, but I mean, this last run, hopefully, he's involved and just keeps things interesting as far as who's he's feuding with and that kind of thing. I know it's going to be different than the Cena we've seen in the past, which some of the Cenas we've hated. Well, I mean, you've hated Cena every every way possible, right? As far as his run.
And you know what? That's fine, man. We have folks. I want y'all to understand. Every guest I have on here, we don't have to agree on everything. I mean, that's the point of being a wrestling fan or a fan of any genre of entertainment. You have your opinions, and you don't have to agree. And it's these weirdos today that they want you to agree on everything. And if you don't agree with me, something's wrong with you. No. You just heard Doug. Doug likes Cena at certain points. I personally think he was responsible for wrestling losing a lot of credibility and viewership over the past 15 years. But
I agree with that. Wholeheartedly. He that whole period really lost me. And so, but he has his moments. I mean, it's funny because I stuck with that product too. But there was sometimes, I didn't tune in, but some of the earlier years where he became PG Cena, I think that lost me. And so, but I think maybe there's parts where I tuned in. So,
well, let me just say this before we move on to the next segment. You brought up the Make-A-Wish kids, right? Mm-hmm. Let me just say something about that. And hopefully it doesn't rub people the wrong way. But, Vince was so obsessed with Cena back in the day that they would do everything to get people to like this guy. And these poor children in Make-A-Wish who were dealing with life-threatening illnesses, they would try to do something called exploitation. They would put Cena out there with these cameras all the time. It's always Cena. It's always like he's the only one doing it. When in reality, you had guys like The Miz, you had all these other wrestlers who did all of this stuff off camera. And it was just them. It was just Vince McMahon back in the day who was so stubborn, trying to get the fans to like Cena. So throw him out there with the Make-A-Wish kids. He was always with the troops. You remember that. Yeah. Always trying to salute. And by the way, whenever he salutes, quit doing that, Cena. You're not a Marine. Stop doing that. Stop saluting in front of the camera. So that type of stuff is what rubbed me the wrong way when they started exploiting the children and the troops for Cena to make him look good. But again, we both have our different opinions, and I think that's fine. It's the beauty of this product, I guess.
Yeah.
Next, we get a Logan Paul video package. I'm not a Logan Paul fan.
Okay.
Gen Z loves him. And technically, I'm late millennial going into Gen Z, but he's, purely for, the fans who only like his Vine stuff back in the day. Right. So he, don't get me wrong, he's a great athlete. I've seen some of his training, but he doesn't he doesn't do it for me. So this video package was just him hyping up his character, cutting a promo. Next, we get Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. I can't even say her name. Liv Morgan. Let me get this. What's that?
Mid Morgan. There was a guy that held a sign that says Mid Morgan, and she just tosses it down. I love that.
Yeah. Of course, we might have differing opinions on this, Duck. But let me just, again, this podcast is about facts. Let me keep it real with you folks. Rhea Ripley is sexy. Okay, I think she looks great. I could do without the tattoos, all those tattoos she has all over her body. But other than that, she's pretty thick. Number one, good looking, and she can wrestle, man.
Yeah,
I looked up some of her old matches before we did this video. She's a great worker, man. She can wrestle.
Right.
And she looks like a real athlete. She hits the gym constantly. She's one of these women who actually looks like she could win an MMA fight. Mm-hmm. Win a real fight. So I'm behind Rhea Ripley all the way.
Oh, yeah.
I think the WWE needs to use her to draw in the 18 to 34-year-old male demographic. Mm-hmm. They really need to use her because not only does she look fantastic, but she is a great athlete. I mean, I saw something on her Wikipedia saying she was a former rugby player. I mean, that's crazy, dude. You're talking about a legit tough woman here. So highlights of the match, Rhea Ripley's power bomb that she kind of changed into a vertical suplex. She had Liv Morgan in a power bomb position, and then she picked her up into a suplex. I thought that was impressive. It looked like she did it all by herself. She didn't get any help from Liv. I'm sorry, Liv Morgan's not believable, man. What is she, like 5 foot, 95 pounds? The fact that you have someone like her as a threat to Rhea Ripley, who I don't know how tall she is, but Rhea Ripley looks like a real athlete, like I said. So the fact that Liv Morgan is getting any offensive advantage over her just doesn't look very realistic. And the finish of the match was Liv Morgan went for her Oblivion finisher, and Ripley reversed and hit her Riptide, which that's the only thing I don't like about Rhea Ripley. Her finish is a little weak, in my opinion.
Okay.
She just picks up the girl and slams her on her back. That's not. She doesn't really even slam her; it just drops her on her back. It's just like Cena's Attitude Era or whatever. Not Attitude Era. Attitude Adjustment. That's literally just throwing a guy on his back. Fireman's carry. It's a weak looking move.
Yeah.
So I think she needs to change that. If she has like a more devastating, high impact move, it would make her look even better. But to do this pump handle slam, I think is what it's technically called.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
It looks a little weak. I think Road Dogg did that back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, she needs to change that. She needs to do like a spear or something, or a power slam, something like that makes her look stronger.
Okay.
She has to hit 2 of them. She hits 2 of them on Liv Morgan, and then she does that pinning position that makes her look like she's dominating her. I think that, again, she knows that men watch that, and that makes her smart. So Rhea Ripley's great. WWE needs to get behind her all the way. They need to make her champion for a long time. They need to put her in every interview. They need to put her in all the promotion. They need to have her go to UFC events. They need to have her go anywhere where there's a male dominated environment and watch the attention come back to WWE, in my opinion.
Yeah.
After the match, The Undertaker came out.
Right.
And he came out in his biker gimmick, which was nice to see. And they actually used the Kid Rock song. I was surprised to see that. They used the Kid Rock song for so many years. They didn't use it because it was copyright. Right. So all the video packages and all the different times he showed up as the biker gimmick, they used the Jim Johnston version because Kid Rock, is real strict on how you use his stuff. But Rhea celebrated with The Undertaker. I thought that was a nice little segment. You got 2 generations sort of morphing like that. Again, the camera guy I guess he should have tilted it up a little bit more. I mean, you could see, Rhea Ripley, she was basically just wearing a one piece. The camera guy showed a little too much skin, in my opinion.
They know they've been doing that. So.
Yeah, and they might be doing it intentionally. That might be smart too.
Yeah.
So her whole rear end was like out. So yeah. I think that's again that I don't know if that's intentional, but hey, they know what they're doing.
Right, yeah.
It got my attention.
Right. I've been used to it, or so. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. What'd you think of the match, man?
Yeah, I think like everything you said about Rhea is true. I mean, yeah, she looks great, and I think I've watched her since NXT, and you knew like right off the bat, and I think there was a period where she was getting like a lot of like thirst comments, and she still gets them now, I'm pretty sure. But like it became like a thing, some of the thirst comments about her, and she knows, she eats it up, and she just she's herself because of that,
and that makes her smart.
Yeah, people call her mommy, and people are chanting mommy or whatever, and that whole relationship she had with Dominic and all that, and but yeah, she's definitive of like what WWE, a big WWE superstar should be, just the look and just everything. And yeah, she's definitely going to go far. And I saw her say something recently that said like she's doesn't really plan on having kids any sooner because of her career, which is great. Because we've seen not to to say anything bad about like some of the women who's competed and just had babies and just like lose momentum and that kind of thing. This is fine, that's your own personal thing, but you can lose momentum from taking time off, and so but you can also gain it too because people miss you, that kind of thing. But I just read something about her saying that recently. But so that just says, how she treats the business, that kind of thing. Not to say this is the route that you should go, but she takes what she does seriously, and her workouts and that kind of thing, and just looking like the way she does, and but yeah, Liv Morgan, she was somebody who, from the beginning, she was mid Morgan. She was one of those people like in her early days got lost in the shuffle, and it's really cool to see her where she's at right now. I think at the beginning of last year or whenever, she had her Liv Morgan Revenge tour, and she was injured and whatever, and she wanted to come back and get it back at everything, taking Dom away from Rhea. And when you start to see some of that unfold, you're like, this could be one of the biggest storylines of last summer, and it felt like it was, and so this storyline between the two is very interesting. Now they've created this whole history, right? They don't have to wrestle each other, every month or whatever, but they've established something that's like, when you see them, a year from now, half a year from now, and they're feuding with other people, there's this history that brings them together, just so much like, the Usos or whatever, and, the New Day or whatever. There's always history behind that, and it creates something. And so I do love that part. And it's always interesting to see every moment between the two, and how it unfolds. I don't think there's ever going to be closure between the two. There's, just like a lot of feuds, sometimes there's never closure. It's just like when people, come together, there's always something that could go down. They could be friends a year from now, but there's that history between the two, which I appreciate. Sometimes you don't have that with the women wrestlers. You have that with Becky and Charlotte, and you have that maybe with some of the other ones. I can't think of anything right now, but it's cool to see that happen because you can easily feud with somebody for like, a month and people forget about that feud, and that's something that's really good that they're working with between the two.
Well, to me, I can't really think of what really strikes me is I can't really think of any other woman on that roster right now who looks like a legitimate athlete like Rhea. I mean, maybe Bianca Belair.
Oh,
I've heard some of her too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing that match.
Mm-hmm.
If WWE, I don't know why they keep holding back on that match. I mean, those two have been the two best looking athletes and two best athletes in general for many years now, and they need to put them in a match, and either at WrestleMania or SummerSlam or Survivor Series, one of these major pay-per-views, because that would be a match that the 18 to 34-year-old males would watch. Because Bianca Belair, I did some research on her. She's a former hurdler, at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah.
What's that?
She's a track star.
Yeah, something like that, track star. So you got the former rugby player versus a track star. I mean, I got respect for those two women because of those pedigrees and their background. And again, Rhea Ripley just looks like a monster, man. The way she carries herself, I can tell. Other than Bianca Belair, she could probably beat the crap out of any woman back there on the WWE roster in a real fight.
Right.
So that's how I measure somebody's mainstream appeal. Can they win a real fight? So yeah, my overall opinion of the match, that was some great explanation, by the way. My overall opinion of the match was I liked it. So we get another backstage segment after that. Chad Gable with his cronies. He says he wants to face the best luchador that they have, and that kind of sets up maybe we'll get a match with Rey Mysterio. That's what I was thinking.
Penta.
Or
Penta
him.
From AEW. Yeah.
I got him mixed up with Kenta for some reason.
Oh, Kenta. Okay, yeah, I know Kenta. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Japanese stuff. CM Punk stole a lot of his moves. So next we get Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. Again, these two, I like these two guys. Drew McIntyre especially, he looks like a beast. He's a great athlete. Highlights of the match, Uso makes his entrance with Travis Scott. Again, apparently he's another popular rapper. I don't think he can hold a candle to Tupac, but he's the popular rapper right now. So it's good that the WWE had somebody else to sort of escort him down to the ring who was popular with that crowd. He was smoking weed during the entrance. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes.
So I thought that was a little edgy, some sort of edginess.
Right.
And then say again.
No opinion on that.
And then
he's smoking weed.
Yeah, he's smoking weed, man. I smell a lot of it sometimes.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee, this is something weird. This is a cringy moment that Michael Cole had afterwards. During the entrance, Pat McAfee said, he does this little thing with his hands, a yeet or whatever.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee kind of, I guess, botched this line. He's like, "I'm yeeting all over myself, Michael." I said, "Oh, well,
I don't know if he botched it. Yeah, it's always a play on words with that.
It's like, Pat, watch yourself there. That's it's a little too close for comfort. So he said he's eating all over himself. And then Michael Cole said, "Oh, Pat, yes, don't get it all over my new suit." It's like, dude, just stay quiet right here, Michael. You don't have to say anything. So after that cringy line, they introduced the ref cam. The referee had a little camera on the side of his ear. So I thought that was interesting. They had this, if I remember properly, they had that same concept back in the 90s. I watched some old footage where in a WCW match in the 90s, they had a referee camera. So I thought that was a little interesting. Highlights of this match with Jey. Jey had a good crossbody off the top rope, very athletic looking. Drew's nip up was really good. Very clean. I mean, he nipped right up almost straight man. It was
Oh, it's so
fantastic. Dude's a great athlete. Jay's kick, the way he slaps his leg when he kicks somebody, I think that's a little annoying because
Yeah.
it just makes it look fake. Drew's Claymore kick, I think, looks cool. That looks legitimate, like he's running full force and then kicks you straight in the face.
All right.
I like that. Jay kicked out of this finisher, though. I saw a lot of that on this show, Doug. A lot of guys kicking out of finishers.
Yeah, it's wrestling now.
Yeah, I mean you're weakening a finishing move,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
The finish of this match was pretty good. Drew went for another Claymore kick and got caught, and Jay rolled him up. In the middle of the Claymore kick. I thought that was a pretty unique finish.
Mhm.
What'd you think of the match?
Yeah, it was good. It's a really good showcase for the two. I don't know if, the feud's going to go anywhere between the two. Just because they're just two big stars on the Raw roster, right? And so, especially just to see Jay come along from where he first started. I mean, I never would have believed that he would be this character. Because we've seen, gosh, we've seen like the Harris twins, right? Eight Ball and Skull, whatever those two guys were, and Jacob and Eli Blue, like twins that uh, in the past. It worked out for like the Bella twins. Nikki separated herself, that kind of thing. And with Jay and Jimmy, they were always just a great tag team, and they were tag team wrestling, and to see like the bloodline storyline unfold and seeing Jay's character come out of this was pretty cool. And then for him to get moved to Raw and just kind of go on his own and yeeting or whatever was pretty exciting, to see. It brought back, I don't know, some of the things that you've seen in the past, like the yes chant, that kind of thing. It's kind of hard to compare the two, right? But the whole thing with the hands and that kind of thing, just to get the fans engaged and that kind of thing. And but yeah, it's always cool to see Jay, where he's at. Is he going to be a world champion one day? I think he has a lot of potential to be. It just all comes down to how that's presented and who he's going to beat and what he would look like as a champion. And that this was one of those matches like you don't know how it's gonna turn out, and they did it well without making one or the other look bad. And yeah, it's always good to see Drew have these matches and just yeah, like you said, the Claymore is always I always saw it as like a modern day super kick. When Shawn Michaels was doing it. Of course, now everybody's doing super kicking everywhere.
Yeah, slapping the leg. I can't stand
slapping
it.
the leg. Yeah, and I love the Claymore finisher. But yeah, Drew's story arc is always interesting, right? He feuded with the CM Punk, and just his level of trolling that he does every now and then, because Drew went through that whole period of the COVID period where he was the guy, but the COVID period was one of those forgotten periods too, because they were wrestling into empty arenas, and he became champion, and it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess. And he never really had that moment until last year, which only lasted for whatever,
Yeah, I think
and
he's a great heel.
yeah, he's a great heel. And yeah, his face run was a little stale because well, it got stale just like any face runs, most face runs would be, I guess. And so but he's another guy like Liv Morgan. When he first started, he was the chosen one, and he's just this. He was a lot, less jack back then, and he was great. Stuck him in, a faction 3MB and that kind of thing, and then he just moved on, and I believe he went to TNA, became Drew Galloway, and just made something out of himself to where when he came back to NXT and WWE, he was, pretty much just pretty much, shot up to main event status. He's a great guy to ever have a feud with. I think he makes his feuds very interesting. That's what I love about Drew. So
Yeah, he's. I'm looking forward. See, guys like that, Drew McIntyre, Haku's son, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is all right, but guys like that in today's generation, I might watch and keep up with because they are the opposite of guys like Cena. They're real athletes who look like tough guys, and they go out there and cut good promos. They don't cut boring promos and monotone promos like Cena, so that you can actually invest in them. So I look forward to whatever Drew's doing. I don't think he's that old. So next, I think we get one more backstage segment before. Oh, no. Next is, Gabriel. They do an interview with Gabriel Iglesias. Oh, no, I apologize. I'm missing something else now. I'm going too far in my notes. Gunther has a promo after this. Gunther is a guy who I like. Gunther is a dude who's believable. He could definitely survive in UFC if he tried UFC.
mm-hmm.
He's the champion right now, apparently.
Yeah.
What champion does he have? Is that the Intercontinental Championship he's got?
World champion.
World champion. Okay. He's great, man. I love how he carries himself. Legit tough guy. It showed him working out and training. Great stuff. Triple H is behind that. Props to him. He had a memorable line. He says, "I'm where their hopes and dreams go to die." That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
So then they have the Gabriel Iglesias interview. Again, if you're a Gabriel Iglesias fan, I apologize. I ain't.
He makes great noises.
Yeah.
He caught my attention like in his early years with his noises, I guess. So
yeah, he's clearly there because he's trying to promote himself. They said he had some stand-up special coming up.
He's a huge WWE fan. He was on SmackDown last night. Yeah.
Okay.
So he shows up. He shows up a lot. He's like Wale. They show up a lot.
Yeah. I don't know who Wale is. He's that guy who. Yeah. Oh, okay. He's that guy we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Next, Stephanie McMahon is shown in the crowd. A lot of people have different opinions on Stephanie. I happen to not like her voice. I think her promos back in the day were just kind of annoying to listen to because it's an accuracy. It's like, oh my gosh, shut up. So, I feel kind of these days though, I feel kind of sorry for her. She's probably been through a lot, man.
Mm-hmm.
Her father going through all of this garbage, and her husband is still ingrained in the business and she's kind of on the sidelines.
Yeah.
So, there's no telling how this woman feels these days. I mean, she's a mother.
Mm-hmm.
So, I got nothing bad to say about Stephanie these days. But back in the day, yeah, I hated listening to her.
But no one back in the days drew heat like Stephanie. I don't know. I mean, of course.
Oh yeah, I can agree with that. She was a good heel.
Like with the way she came out and when she became a heel, obviously, innocent Steph was kind of like wide open on TV, but when she became heel Steph and just annoyed the heck out of you and just got involved with even the men and just trying to she'll slap anybody and being that authority figure that you hated, she was great at it. Yeah. And so
that McMahon Helmsley era.
Yeah.
I like that.
I would love to see that recreated today, but I don't know.
Who can you do it with?
Yeah. Who has that in them to be this evil Miss Stephanie McMahon, and
they could try that with, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, just no one. I don't know. So I love like Tiffany Stratton. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's, you talk about Rhea Ripley. I mean, she's a gymnast and she's jacked too. I mean, she first started, she was really jacked.
Okay.
And, but she's the other women's champion, and she's somebody that can be, if she really wanted to be a character that you hate. And she's already a character. She does a really good job of being a hated character, but I'm trying to think of somebody who's like next level hated, like Stephanie, and it's really hard to find that. You know,
Yeah, a lot of that stuff
like
is. Go
they
ahead.
would have to be like an authority figure. I think that's what it is, because people can relate to that, right? People can relate to hating your boss and that kind of thing.
Yeah, back in the day, it was so unique because Vince was the perfect authority figure because in real life, people didn't like the guy.
Hmm.
He had a lot of heat and controversy from the mainstream media about his steroid trial in the early 90s and, how he's promoting bad things to children. And so a lot of that stuff was just so unique to where it fell into place at the perfect times for him to get booed legitimately like that when he was going up against Austin. And you don't really have that these days because WWE is definitely they've kept their nose way more cleaner when it comes to steroids and drugs and guys dying really early. They're definitely not like that anymore. But with that being said, to like you said, to back up your point, because of that, who is really around these days to provide that legitimate heat where people don't like you? I can't think of anybody but Cena who draws that
To
type of
you.
heat. So yeah, after that they show. Is my mic too loud? By the way.
No, it's perfect.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm
Oh,
not.
mine is fine. I don't know. So
Oh yeah, you sound good. I want to make sure I'm not blowing people's eardrums out. Next we got the main event, which was CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. The fans. Something I noticed here. I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed a lot of fans leaving at this point. Opposite the hard camera,
mm,
there are a lot of empty seats all of a sudden. So I'm sorry, WWE, but that sold out crowd you were talking about didn't last the whole show.
gotta get to work the next morning.
Yeah, those people were out of there, man. The main event, the people were already gone, which tells me that they. I hate to keep sounding negative, man. I'm just pointing the facts out. They didn't want to see it. That they would have stayed if they were interested. But CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. I was a Punk fan a few years ago, especially when he started talking crap about Cena and saying all these true statements about Cena. I think he's gotten a little stale now because it's come out that he's stolen a lot of guys' moves. And he's still a great worker, but he doesn't have the same magic that he had, 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
I know you remember that Money in the Bank pay-per-view where he came out in Chicago, his hometown.
Oh, okay.
And
The belt.
right, yeah, he won the belt from Cena, and Cena was booed out of the building, man. That was great. It was some fun times. But Michael Cole explains how Colby Lopez, which is Seth Rollins' real name, trained with CM Punk. The two men hated each other. So it's good storytelling by the announcers. They talked about the guy's real name and how they used to really like each other and they trained together. Highlights of the match: Punk looked like he tweaked his knee, man, when he did that over the top rope dive, and Seth Rollins got out of the way and Punk kind of landed awkwardly on his knee. So I don't know if he did that intentionally or if it's legitimate.
Yeah.
They did a brawl in the crowd. Again, the brawling in the crowd, that's good for certain matches, but it seems like they do that for a lot of matches today. I think that's just something to kind of give the paying customer at the live event something to experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to these events, you've been to them. I wouldn't be caught dead at a show today. I'm sorry, man, but you've been to a lot of these shows, so that's why I have you on here. You give some good feedback on how the crowds are.
Yeah.
When you see that in person, does that make it worth paying the money if these guys are actually out on near the floor seats fighting in front of you?
It's just I don't know. It's a different. It just brings wrestling to a different level, I guess. Of just like it just kind of wakes you up, I guess, to see them next to you. I remember when I keep bringing back this AEW event that I went to. John Moxley, who was Dean Ambrose to the WWE folks.
Yep.
Had his little entrance, coming down he normally has his entrance from the crowd and comes down, and I have it on video where of course I'm just holding it and I'm very bad at taking videos, but if I do, but I felt like there was a moment to just kind of hold the phone up to my chest and but I wanted to live the moment and to see him come out and give him the pat on the back or whatever, and was really exciting. When you get those what you call it, the aisle seats, not the aisle seats, the rampway, walkway, whatever, the entrance, where all the entrance, that whole section, it's always cool to high five the guys or whatever, and but to have that whole thing with the brawling in the crowd, it's fun. I like it. You just don't know what's going to happen. Something else might come out. I love it when they plant. Who was it? But anyways, sometimes they'll plant like a certain person to throw a drink at. And it's hard to figure out whether or not that's real. There was one with who was it? I think it was R-Truth and John Cena. You got to fact check me on that. Where was it R-Truth? It was somebody threw a drink at a Cena fan. I just
know that's another guy Cena buried.
Yeah, yeah, and but I love those moments where it's like, is that real or not? Did they actually throw a drink at somebody? It's like, as a fan, if somebody threw a drink at me, a wrestler, I'd be like, yeah, I was that guy. That guy, throwing at me.
You'd be proud of that.
And so I was a part of the action, right? So it's, it is what it is. It's fun. It's unpredictable. Sometimes it's like, not so much unpredictable, but like, what's going to happen, when it's out there, anything can happen. Somebody else will come out. Even a fan could just be out of line and just like do something stupid, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen those videos. You remind me of an old somebody years ago. There's a video on the internet floating around of CM Punk. This is back when he was the champion. Vince finally gave him the championship, and he was running away from Cena. Believe it or not, that's stupid. He's running away from Cena, and he runs into the crowd, right? And he's all the way up near the exit to the arena. And somebody pushed him, like a legit fan pushed him or hit him in the back of his head or something. And somebody was filming it, and it's hilarious, his reaction, man, because he let it go the first time, and he's still in character. Yeah. But then the guy did it again. He pushed him in the back again, and Punk turned around and clocked the guy. I just thought of that when you said that. I thought that was funny.
I was thinking about this happened not too long ago, maybe like the past 2 years. But Seth Rollins was in the crowd talking trash to, I believe it was, I want to say it's CM Punk, but I don't remember anymore. But he was out there talking trash. Somebody, maybe it's Drew, I don't know who it was. But there was a fan that held their phone in front of Seth Rollins while he's doing a promo, and it's like right up next to Rollins' face. Rollins didn't even acknowledge it; he just kept going. But there's some screenshots, and you can probably look it up on YouTube where. I don't know how you find it, but yeah, some fan was just like some nerdy wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Right there, it just looks so funny, and I was like, dude, put that phone down.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're crazy.
Close. Yeah. So, but it was entertaining too, though. It's like, wow, why would somebody do that? But it was entertaining to me.
Yeah, it's always funny to see him get the crap kicked out of him. Like, back in the day, dude, if you ran in the ring back in the day with those dudes, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
When Hogan turned heel, I'll just bring this up and then we'll move on. When Hogan turned heel, in '96 at that Bash of the Beach event, and they were throwing stuff in the ring because the old WCW crowds would throw stuff in the ring all the time.
Yeah.
And there were fans trying to get in the ring, and Scott Hall, man, you can't see. You have to go back and watch the live version.
Right.
The live feed on Daily Motion or something. You can't find it on YouTube, but you got to go to Daily Motion.
Yeah.
For some reason, Daily Motion has some sort of copyright thing where you can actually show the full pay-per-view matches. But you can see it on Daily Motion, the full pay-per-view, and in that version, man, when somebody tries to get in the ring while Hogan is cutting his promo, Scott Hall kicks the living crap out of this dude, and you look on the guy's face, and he's like, Oh man, I'll never do that again.
Yeah.
I mean, Scott Hall decked this guy, man.
Right.
You would
Yeah.
never
Somebody tried to
want
do
to
that
do
to
that.
Eddie. Eddie
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Guerrero, one of his matches. I think it was a ladder match or something. But yeah, he was about to throw down until security, got to that guy. But yeah,
Because you never know if these fans have weapons or
yeah,
smuggled stuff in there. That's why they react like that.
yeah.
You're crazy to get in a pro wrestling ring with these monster athletes,
Right.
man. So yeah, the next highlight of the Punk match was the running knee in the corner. I think he looked pretty smooth with his running knee in the corner,
Yeah.
and then he seamlessly went into a neck breaker with Rollins. Rollins reversed that and hit a GTS, go to sleep, on Punk, and Punk took it the hard way. Man, they did a slow motion replay, and you can
Hmm.
see Punk intentionally putting his head up to his knee as he's going down, up to Rollins' knee as he's going down. So I give CM Punk all the credit in the world for trying to make it look real. And Seth Rollins is a great worker, as we both know.
Yeah.
Punk hits the curb stomp on Rollins, which I thought they banned that move. I guess they got it back.
Hmm.
Rollins hits the pedigree on the announce table. And here's one thing that did annoy me. You know how whenever they do these announce table spots, they try to clear everything off the table. Why do you do that? Why not just get on the table and do the spot
But
without clearing stuff off? That seems pretty fake.
yeah, it throws away the authenticity of the moment and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I did like the spot though. It's a breakaway table, but he hit the pedigree on the announce table. We get dueling crowd chants. So you got "Let's go Punk," "Let's go Rollins." I think both of them are over as baby faces,
Yeah.
especially Seth Rollins with his how the crowd sings along with his theme song.
Yeah.
The finish was Rollins hitting a superplex on Punk and Punk rolling through. He rolled so once he hit the superplex and they hit the mat, Punk seamlessly rolled through and picked up Rollins and hit a GTS on Rollins, and he picked up the win after that. So that's your main event. What's your opinion on this, man?
Yeah, this is definitely one for the archives, and you'll look back and appreciate the work that both of these guys have put in for the business. You don't know how long CM Punk is going to be around. Even Seth Rollins is dealing with injuries while he's wrestling right now. This is a feud that's been brewing for at least a year. And or even if you want to look past that, their little meeting at NXT, like you said, they trained together. And I remember first seeing Seth Rollins on NXT. I'm like, this guy reminds me so much of CM Punk. Just the raspiness in his voice, the look, something about that, the long hair. I don't know what it was, but he gave off like CM Punk vibes. He just didn't have that, he wasn't as controversial as CM Punk. But yeah, this is a feud that's been brewing around for a while. And of course, with the CM Punk injury last year, they couldn't take it to WrestleMania, which I'm pretty sure they planned. I believe they confirmed that on the documentary. And so I think a lot of people was anticipating it to happen at WrestleMania, this year's WrestleMania. But then is it too late because, Punk's healthy and they've been going at it verbally? And I guess they felt like it was right to put it on the Netflix episode. But it really it had the makings of a WrestleMania match, and yeah, they did it well. And that's I'm pretty sure that's not going to be the end of that feud. And but yeah, this is a feud that's been brewing for a while, and that they did it justice. And I really appreciate both of these guys. I've been a CM Punk fan for a while. I love of course, I relate to the straight edge character. I don't have the tattoos or whatever, but I remember just watching that guy just, promoting his, straight edge lifestyle. You're just like, oh, that's cool. And Seth Rollins, when he came along, just because of like part of him, he reminds you of Punk. I loved, just he, he was pretty good at his promos and he was a great wrestler and just had the makings of a really good superstar. And but yeah, this one, I was hoping to see it like promoted like more towards like WrestleMania. Of course, they've been promoting this feud for like the longest time. It's just a matter of when do we have this match. And so it was good. It was a good main event for the debut of Raw. So um, we'll just leave it at that, I guess. It's almost like the Liv Rhea thing, right? And the Drew and Punk rivalries that we're seeing as of late, and a lot of that stuff can carry over for a really long time and be interesting. And even if they're not feuding at the moment, but whenever they cross paths, there's always something interesting between the two. So yeah, it was good.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, man. I liked it too. I think it was nice to finally see this show had a lot of good wrestlers on the show, which is saying a lot when Vince was in charge. So hopefully Triple H will get behind good wrestlers and not cringy dudes who have Cena-like gimmicks. Okay, we don't want to see that. We want to see guys who can actually get in there and put on a good match, like Punk and Rollins, like Jey Uso and Drew McIntyre, like Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair. The other chick you mentioned, blonde-haired chick. Not her, the other one. People like that who can actually put on great matches. That's what we want to see as hardcore wrestling fans. We want to see it. Like, I'm used to Jerry Lynn versus RVD.
Oh yeah. That's a feud right there.
Right. Those matches were great, man. I posted some of that in my Facebook the other day. Okay. It was you could watch them for hours because they were so seamless in every spot they did. And it was in front of a crowd that you really had to impress.
Yeah.
Those old ECW crowds. So I'll let you give your overall rating of the show here in a second, but before we do that, folks, let me just say this. This is pro wrestling, okay? We're giving our opinion on an entertainment product. Don't let anyone out there, Jim Ross, as much as I respect him, he said some questionable stuff about people who don't like Cena. Don't let anybody in the business or anyone out there try to change your opinion if you don't like someone in the wrestling business. I'm not a movie director, but I didn't like the Star Wars prequels. Does that make me a bad person that I only like the original trilogy? So stuff like that. This is an entertainment-based product. We're not dealing in, facts like sports. I don't like Cena. Duck happened to like Cena at certain points, and that's fine. So I would encourage any wrestling fan out there watching us right now, don't let people change your opinion on certain wrestlers. That's a bad culture in this environment today, where everyone has to agree on everything, and I don't particularly like that. So my rating of the show is no surprise, Duck. My rating of the show is 2 out of 10. Mainly because the number of matches that were good. I think there was really only 2 matches that were good, and that was Drew and Rollins, Rollins and Punk, and Drew and Jey Uso. Because the Roman and Sikoa match, that was just a gimmick match with a bunch of weapons. In my opinion. What's that?
Handguns and knives.
Yeah. It's just, I think there were only 2 matches on this card that were pretty good. Okay. I like Rhea Ripley. Like I said, she's pretty sexy, and they need to book her as much as possible. Yeah, they need to keep her on top as much as possible. Going forward, I'll give my predictions going forward. WrestleMania, they need to do Ripley versus Belair, in my opinion. They need to do that. They need to get that match going already. I think they need to keep Punk and Rollins going, but I did like Drew McIntyre and Punk. I like that feud. Mm-hmm. Cena's cringy self, he needs to put every single opponent over. If this dude if somebody has to put over Cena, are you kidding me? Someone has to put over Cena this year with his farewell tour. I might come on this podcast and your monitor will turn into flames, Duck. Okay. This dude doesn't need to be beating anybody. Put somebody over for once, Cena.
Yeah.
Have him do his little farewell tour where he puts guys over who are better than him, and that'll be it. I'll be fine with that. So yeah, that's it for me, Duck. What's your rating of the show?
Oh wow. So I wasn't ready for a rating,
Oh, well,
but
that's
I
fine.
will give it. Oh man, maybe 7.5 to 8.
Okay.
I say that because there was a lot of. First of all, the presentation for this event was off the charts. I guess I don't know, maybe not, but it was huge. Just um, as far as promoting it like a big event, like a big deal, like pay-per-view, WrestleMania ish. Of course, you know WrestleMania, it's better. Um, there's some parts that move the storylines, and some parts is just like, okay, like the Drew and Jay thing. I don't know if they, it's a one-off or whatever. They'll cross paths, but it's not like a big deal. So the matches, I love the back and forth with all the matches and that whole deal. Yeah, it's really hard to rank, but I mean, presentation is great. Moving forward, the excitement watching the event, for me, that felt like a 10 because I'm just on the edge of my seat, like as a fan, like what's gonna happen next or that kind of thing. But also, some of it is a little predictable, like they're gonna bring this guy out and talk, whatever, and they're not gonna get involved with anything going forward, or they're just it's a one-off, it's an appearance. And I know most fans were expecting surprises like Becky Lynch or whatever, and I was too. And you were talking about Rhea and Bianca this past week. That rumor's been brewing. So they did have a tag match last night.
Okay,
And
good. I'd like to see that.
yeah, so there's still definitely a possibility between Rhea and Becky, part two from last year. Rhea and Bianca, and who else? I like the idea with Rhea and Jade Cargo, but that might be too soon, or whatever. Because I do see Jade Cargo and Bianca possibly being a WrestleMania match, depending on what this, attacker storyline is revealed in the coming months. I guess I don't know when that's going to be revealed. Um, and Charlotte and Tiffany Stratton being the other women's match or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of hype around this pay-per-view, this Raw, and the excitement watching it was very high for me, and that would give it the rating, like the high rating. The matches were great. As far as building the story and just having these appearances, that kind of thing, and not having. I think as fans, sometimes we get spoiled with surprises or just like the heel turn, that shock moment. It didn't have those moments, which is fine. You can't have that every week. You start to saturate some of that, and so they did a good job. It did end up leaving me with like feeling like maybe a 7.5 to an 8, if that helps.
Oh yeah, that's
Not
fine.
like
I guess
yeah.
no problem, man. I guess
There have
let
been
me
better Raws. There have been better Raws.
let me say it like this: the 2 out of 10 applies to the matches.
Okay.
There were 2 matches that I found entertaining. In terms
Okay.
of the overall presentation, I thought it was great. 8 or 9 out of 10. I think they're finally using the right means of technology to get your attention. Vince was stubborn with that. He didn't do that. Triple H is the one who got the superimposed augmented reality stuff during the entrances. Triple H is the one who really pushed for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's great how they are promoting these different presentations.
Yeah.
I think that'll help them with the stream audience. But with that being said, folks, I guess, we may review another, notable episode. I don't think you can expect this every week. But when it comes to significant episodes for wrestling, I might get Duck on here to talk again with us because we have some thought-provoking conversations, as you can see.
Sure.
As you know, this podcast is not just wrestling. It's all about sports in general. Duck and I are big sports fans. So we might talk about the championship game between the Bills and the Chiefs. We might talk about that.
Okay.
All I can say is Patrick Mahomes is becoming the new Patriots. I said that, in a video. I uploaded a video last week talking about that. So we may talk about that. But either way, hopefully you all enjoyed this analysis. And thanks to Duck. What's your social media, Duck, so people know who you are? Or do you want to divulge that information?
You can find me at Fix Me a Sandwich.
Fix me a sandwich. Okay.
Yeah, I just so random quote that or not quote, but just name that I just threw out there, and it just kind of stuck with all my handles. So yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Duck, like I said, is an old school wrestling fan, sports fan. You can find him on Fix Me a Sandwich. And of course, you can find me on Scott Freeman Facebook. I try to upload a lot of different, inspiring videos with music. And so look for me on Spotify as well, folks. And with that being said, we'll see y'all later. Thank you.
All right.